The crystalline halls of the Galactic Tribunal stretched endlessly in all directions, their translucent walls humming with the collective consciousness of 1,000 species. Commander Sarah Chen stood in the accused chamber, her weathered hands clasped behind her back, watching as representatives from across the known galaxy took their positions in the amphitheater-like courtroom. 3 months had passed since the Battle of Kepler 442b. 3 months since humanity had committed what the galaxy deemed an unforgivable act. 3 months since Sarah had given the order that saved 2 billion human colonists but obliterated an entire Zephyrian fleet. The presiding consciousness, a being of pure energy that spoke through shifting patterns of light, materialized above the central dais. Its voice resonated through every mind present, a telepathic whisper that bypassed language entirely. The accused will face judgment for the violation of the sacred covenant of non-escalation, it intoned. The human species stands charged with the deployment of forbidden quantum weaponry against a peaceful diplomatic mission. Sarah's jaw tightened. Peaceful diplomatic mission? The Zephyrians had arrived at the human colony with 40 dreadnoughts and an ultimatum: surrender the planet's rare Earth deposits or face extinction. When humanity refused, they had begun orbital bombardment of civilian centers. A figure emerged from the observers section, tall, ethereal, with skin that shimmered like moonlight on water. Advocate Lyrelai of the Centauri Federation, the most respected legal mind in 3 sectors. She approached Sarah with fluid grace, her luminous eyes betraying no emotion. "Commander Chen," Lyrelai said, her voice carrying the musical quality of her species. "Before we begin these proceedings, I must ask you a question that will determine how I present your defense." Sarah turned to face her. The alien's beauty was otherworldly, but her expression was grave. Around them, the murmur of 1,000 conversations in 100 languages created a symphony of anticipation. "Do you want mercy or truth?" Lyrelai asked. The question hung in the air between them like a blade. Sarah had been expecting this moment, had rehearsed a dozen different responses during her months in custody, but now, faced with the choice, she found herself considering what each path truly meant. Mercy would mean presenting humanity as repentant, showing contrition for their actions. She could claim the quantum torpedo launch was an accident, a malfunction in their systems during the heat of battle. The galaxy might accept that explanation, might show leniency to a young species still learning the rules of civilized warfare. Humanity would survive, but branded as incompetent children who couldn't be trusted with advanced technology. Truth was different. Truth was admitting that she had personally armed the quantum torpedo. Truth was explaining that humanity had studied Zephyrian tactics for years, had prepared for exactly this scenario. Truth was revealing that the malfunction was actually a precisely calculated strike designed to cripple the enemy fleet, while minimizing civilian casualties on the planet below. Truth meant revealing that humanity wasn't the helpless prey species the galaxy believed them to be. "You know what they'll do if I choose truth," Sarah said quietly. Lyrelai nodded. "They will likely vote for your species' quarantine. Permanent isolation from galactic society. No trade, no technological exchange, no expansion beyond your current systems. And if I choose mercy, probationary status, supervised integration, your weapons development monitored, your expansion controlled. You would be wards of the galaxy, protected, but powerless." Sarah closed her eyes, thinking of Earth, thinking of the 24 colony worlds humanity had painstakingly established over the past century, thinking of the children in those settlements who deserved better than to grow up as cosmic footnotes. The presiding consciousness pulsed impatiently. "The proceedings must begin. Advocate Lyrelai, how does your client answer the charges?" Sarah opened her eyes and looked directly at the energy being. Around the amphitheater, thousands of alien eyes focused on her. Some held curiosity, others contempt, most simple indifference. To them, humanity was just another species that had overreached and needed correction. "Before my advocate speaks," Sarah said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics, "I want to tell you all a story." The presiding consciousness flickered with what might have been annoyance. "This is irregular." "The story of how humans respond when their children are threatened," Sarah continued, stepping forward. "You see, when the Zephyrian fleet arrived at Kepler 442b, they didn't just threaten our mining operations. They began bombardment of 3 civilian population centers, daycare facilities, schools, hospitals. Murmurs rippled through the audience. This information hadn't been in the official reports. They did this to demonstrate their resolve, Sarah said. To show us that resistance was futile. What they didn't understand is that threatening human children doesn't break our will, it focuses it. Lyrelai stepped closer, alarm in her eyes. Commander, please consider. I armed that quantum torpedo myself, Sarah announced, her voice echoing off the crystalline walls. I calculated the precise yield needed to disable their fleet. I gave the order to fire, and when their commander contacted me in those final moments, demanding to know how we had developed such technology in secret, I told him the truth. The chamber had gone completely silent. I told him that humans have been preparing for this moment since we first looked up at the stars. That every species in this galaxy has been our teacher, whether they intended to be or not. We watched how you wage war, how you negotiate, how you conquer. We learned from your mistakes and your successes. The presiding consciousness pulsed with angry energy. You admit to espionage. I admit to being human, Sarah said firmly. To belonging to a species that doesn't know how to surrender when our children are dying. The Zephyrians thought they could intimidate us because we're young, because we're small. They forgot the most important thing about humanity. She paused, looking around the chamber at the assembled representatives of galactic civilization. We're not just another species you can push around. We're the species that looked at an empty universe and decided to fill it. We're the species that took fire from lightning and medicine from mold. We're the species that split the atom and bent space-time to our will. The silence stretched until Lyrelai finally spoke. Commander Chen chooses truth. Sarah nodded. Every word of it. The trial that followed would last 3 standard days. The verdict was unanimous. Humanity would be quarantined indefinitely. But as Sarah was led away, she caught sight of something in the observers section that made her smile. Representatives from a dozen younger species were taking notes.